Am I making this up? Is neurodivergence just a trend? Why is everybody neurodivergent all of a sudden? Have you wondered this? Because I had. And I'm wondering, am I making this up because I really want a reason to just explain why I'm so anxious and feel like I'm crazy and weird and all this stuff? And I'm like, yes, I have a reason. It's science. And I wanted to get to the bottom of that. So I spent some time this week researching a bit on, is this just a trend? And so I made this video to summarize some of the facts that I found that might give you comfort that no, you are not making this up. The first part, history. This has happened over and over again in the past. So PTSD was first discovered and diagnosed for combat soldiers after war, right? And that was the most obvious and disruptive case of it. As the science and literature and research became more apparent, they started realizing that people that have not been to war, but that have had like childhood abuse or trauma, medical trauma from the past, chronic stress, were also suffering symptoms of PTSD. So the definition of what PTSD means and how you can get it started expanding. So at that time, there were people that were like, is this just a trend? Is this being made up? Because more and more people were being diagnosed with PTSD as the science progressed. The same thing apparently happened with dyslexia. Initially, kids that were not able to figure out how to read were considered lazy and not trying hard enough. And then eventually science caught up, realized there's actually a processing disorder happening with dyslexia. And then schools started testing for it. And then what happened? The numbers for dyslexia increased. So at that point, I'm sure there were people wondering, is dyslexia made up? Is it a trend? But it's just that the numbers were going up because we're getting smarter and more aware of how it presents. I thought of a metaphor actually, thinking about when you get hurt physically. If somebody's bleeding, it's very obvious that they're in pain, right? But if that person's not bleeding and they have like a bruise or something, it's not as obvious, but they're still hurt and they're still in pain. I feel like it's kind of like that with these scientific discoveries. Initially, it's that obvious, like bleeding wound that people see. And then eventually they realize, oh, it's not just a bleeding wound, a bruise can also be painful. So, same thing, like PTSD. Yes, that military combat PTSD is very intense and obvious. But if you suffered childhood abuse and you were never in war, you could still have the symptoms of PTSD. And those are just as legit. Part two here is about neurodiversity specifically. So neurodivergence followed the same arc as PTSD, dyslexia, and that physical wound thing I just talked about. Initially, it was boys with these very clear disruptive behaviors that were presenting, and they were being diagnosed with autism and other neurodivergencies. It was very obvious. So that became labeled as autism, and those cases were not that frequent. Then, as the science expanded and they realized there's masking happening, people hiding all the ways they're struggling, especially women, and as those things became validated as actually neurodivergent experiences, cases of neurodivergency increased and making it seem like it's a trend or people are making it up. But no, it's like as our understanding of something expands, more people can fall into that category. So that's what's happening with neurodivergency. And part three, social media makes that go in hyper speed. One, because of the algorithms, we're going to see more of what we're interested in. So now we're going to be like, oh my gosh, everyone's neurodivergent. Everything in my feed is neurodivergency. So that's one piece of the social media. But the other piece is that information just spreads so quickly now that it feels almost like overnight everyone has a neurodivergency, everyone's ADHD, everyone has OCD. It just seems like overnight. But it's not. It's just the speed at which we communicate. And the more people share their stories, other people are inspired to share their stories. So then more and more people share their stories, and it feels like it's happening everywhere. But it's that social media and technology is enabling this platform for people to share more quickly and more often. And part four is about the person wondering if they're making it up, aka me or you possibly, or anyone around you. I don't think, and this is just my completely non-medical, non-professional opinion, I don't think if you're not neurodivergent in some way, you're going to spend endless hours and focus figuring out if you're neurodivergent or on the spectrum. You're not going to deep dive on research, figuring out if it's real, which I have done, and which I'm sure you have done too. Take some comfort in that. I don't think people that are very neurotypical are going to spend a lot of time investing in learning about neurodivergence, wondering about their nervous system and how the sensory world is impacting them. And the last part here is about compassion for yourself. I really think that whether or not you get a specific diagnosis or a label or whatever it is, if you feel relief when you learn about neurodivergence and it makes you feel understood and you feel a community, I think it's okay to keep leading in and being curious and don't worry about whether you're making it up. I don't think you are, but I get why you feel like that. And that's why I put together this video to explain all the history and science on why it might feel trendy, but it's not. So if this resonated or you found it helpful in any way, feel free to like and subscribe. My plan is to keep making content on videos exploring this topic of neurodivergence as context for how we've been feeling, how we've been struggling, and our different life experiences. Because I feel with context, we get language and self compassion to heal and grow and really live our fullest lives.